But this bomb, I'm told, was actually covertly planted inside that guest house about 2 months ago, and it was only remotely detonated once it was clear.
It's crazy. So shocking. Definitely not Israel, by the way. I mean, Israel is the #1 at planting bombs in hotels. They're just pretty good at assassinations in general. They've been doing that a lot. Yes, new details emerge on the Ismail Haniyeh assassination in a building that the IRGC straight up controlled 2 months prior, knowing full well that that's where Ismail Haniyeh stays when he visits Tehran. Kind of crazy.
Mourning the death of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, the funeral procession made its way through the streets of Tehran. Leading the prayers, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has promised a harsh punishment for the murder of a guest in his country.
Why are they sad Hamas leader is dead? What do you mean? There was a ceasefire negotiation happening that Israel refused to abide by. And then they assassinated the guy that was literally doing the peace negotiation. The guy that they assassinated was the principal negotiator on the Palestinian side. He doesn't have any like arms training. He doesn't know how to fucking fight like that. He is functionally a diplomat. And Israel was like, yeah, this is what we think about the fucking peace deal. They just assassinated the guy doing the peace deal.
As the political face of Hamas, Haniyeh was also the man sitting in the same room as the Israelis trying to hammer out a hostage deal. That could now be in jeopardy. Today marks 300 days of Hamas captivity for hostages in Gaza.
That's crazy. I hate this fucking framing. Oh, 300 days of Hamas captivity? How about 300 days of genocide too? Come on. You can't bring up the fucking hostages unless you're going to talk about how Israel has no interest whatsoever in releasing the fucking hostages.
More breaking news right now, and this coming from the Middle East. Tensions skyrocketing there after assassinations this week, and we are getting right now some brand new details about exactly how the assassination of the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh went down. And these are incredible details that Jeremy Diamond is breaking. He's in Haifa, Israel, in northern Israel right now. And Jeremy, these details are pretty stunning.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Aaron. I mean, this was a quite sophisticated operation. I'm told by a source familiar with the matter that Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran early yesterday morning using a bomb that was covertly hidden in the guest house where he was staying. But this bomb, I'm told, was actually covertly planted inside that guest house about 2 months ago, and it was only remotely detonated once it was clear that Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's political leader, was actually inside his room inside of that guest house.
It's crazy. So shocking. Definitely not Israel, by the way. I mean, Israel is the #1 at planting bombs in hotels. They're pretty good with that shit for sure. They're just pretty good at assassinations in general. They've been doing that a lot. Unless it's Klaus Barbie, in which case they don't mysteriously assassinate him, possibly because he's now an American asset at that point. But yeah, they're pretty good at blowing up hospitals. They're pretty good at blowing up everything. What are the proofs that it's Israel? I assume Israel says it's not them. So what proof do Palestine use against them? I don't know what the Palestinian proof is, but the IDF did post about target eliminated, like on Facebook, immediately after he was killed. Then they deleted it. Also, you know, the obvious implications, motives, the fact that the United States of America openly stated we were not informed by Israel on this operation. You know, just like everything. The fact that there aren't really any other actors that would do such a thing. Didn't they try to do the same thing about you with the hospital bombing that people bring up all the time to try to own you over? Yeah. The fact that Israel has killed negotiators in the past in the midst of a negotiation. The fact that Israel also killed a bunch of other high-profile military members that were like Hezbollah people in that same time frame in the 48 hours. Why do you care that the leader of a terrorist organization was assassinated? Number one, Israel is a significantly larger terror organization than Hamas. They are significantly better at doing terror in comparison to Hamas. Hamas are like not even baby terrorists in comparison to what Israel has done. That's number one. Number two, the person that Israel assassinated was the principal negotiator in a ceasefire deal that would see the release of 150 Israeli, some of which are American, citizens. Well, most of them are IDF soldiers at this point, but are prisoners of war and hostages that Hamas has captured for 300 days. You don't do that. You just don't kill the fucking principal negotiator, especially when he is the chief of the Politburo and is not affiliated with the military wing. He's also seen as a more moderate figure within Palestinian liberation, within within especially the structure of Hamas. So that's what it is. It's one thing to assassinate Hania. It's another to do it specifically in Tehran. It's genuinely hard to imagine, let alone put into words the seriousness of what comes next. Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought too, but they're like relying on Iran not wanting the smoke. The CNN correspondent literally just said Israel briefed the U.S. about the operation after it happened. If it wasn't Israel, why would they brief the U.S.? Nasrallah also spoke today. Seems a pretty serious response also coming from them in addition to Iran. This is from Timur Azari, Iraq bureau chief of Reuters. Hassan Nasrallah, general secretary of Hezbollah, the leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon, has said he noted that Israel hit a civilian building in the capital suburbs, killing civilians and a top leader. This indicates Hezbollah could strike at or near a major Israeli city, going for a mixed military/civilian target. The Iranian media, by the way, and the resistance is actually saying that it was not an improvised explosion, an IED or a bomb that was planted in this building, but instead it was like a rocket or a drone, I think. But I don't know. The media malpractice is wild. They're simply not covering that he was a primary peace negotiator and was assassinated. No, they covered it. Even American media was like, yeah, this guy was literally seen as a moderate in comparison to Yahya Sinwar. And not only that, but also he was the principal negotiator. Do I think Iran has the capacity to take on Israel? Bro, there's no taking on Israel. Taking on Israel means taking on the United States of America. But ultimately, I think America and the rest of the Western world have a lot more to lose in a situation like that. What do I mean by this? Because Israel benefits from being a steadfast ally and firmly within the ecosystem that the West has created. Imperial core countries have a lot to lose in any kind of destabilization. You say that like the U.S. never lost a war? No, they have. That's what I'm beginning to explain. So imperial core countries live a life of luxury in comparison to the global South. If there is a war with Iran, Iran wouldn't just target Israel, okay? They would target by way of their resistance groups that they have planted strategically that, you know, came out of allegiances that they have cut together with, you know, even Sunni groups like Hamas or the Ansar Allah administration in Yemen, allegiances that they've created and numerous groups in both Syria and Iraq, that they could immediately start targeting oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. All of America's allies in the region, all the Gulf states would be at risk. Things would get really frustrating for people in America very quickly. It wouldn't just be like, oh, this is a war far away, who gives a shit, whatever. Maybe some American service members die in the process, but we can just kind of not talk about that like in Afghanistan. It would turn into a complete collapse of the global economy as a consequence of oil prices skyrocketing. There would be a genuine global economic crisis, specifically because the price of a fucking barrel of oil would shoot up so much. Surely Iran isn't crazy enough to take on the entire Gulf in the West. I think that's part of the reason why they're not responding in kind, but instead responding in a very restrained way so far. But yes, I mean, this would be global war, full blown. It's something that I don't think China wants. It's something that I don't think anybody else wants. It's something that I think is so severe that Benjamin Netanyahu thinks he can get away with opening up a second front and potentially a third front and pull America in and keep this limited. But let me tell you, you would not enjoy this at all. None of us would, which is why I've been saying since early October that America has to restrain Israel. Meanwhile, Hitler Yahoo is doing the exact same shit that Hitler did, just out of his goddamn mind. And we seemingly are in a motherfucking suicide pact with him. Yeah, U.S. can't defend Israel plus every oil field in the Middle East at the same time. I mean, I don't think even the Iron Dome itself, no matter how fucking hard the American defenses try to stop like a full-blown Iranian missile strike with Hezbollah and with fucking Yemen, like there's just no way. There's no way, dude. That would be a shit ton of people dying in Israel. And that's what I mean. Like one death inside of Israel or one death in America is worth so much more in the eyes of Americans than like hundreds of Iranians dying, you know? Even in terms of the calculation, like when all you know, when you were born in Yemen and all you known, your whole life is genocide and famine as a consequence of Western-backed forces with Saudi Arabia and UAE conducting a man-made famine and creating a genocide in your country. Like when 100 of your friends fucking die, that's like every other day. That's something that you have experienced in your life. But when you're living in Israel and you're like a marketing executive and you go and you eat at the Pizza Palace and you play the shittiest techno music of all time, you're like living a normal life in luxury for the most part. When one person in your country dies, that is something significantly more dramatic because it's like out of the norm. That's why 9/11 was so significant, right? America's geopolitical condition, like its position on the planet, sheltered it from the worst aspects of World War II because it was so fucking far away. That's why 9/11 was so goddamn significant. It's like, holy shit, 3,000 Americans died on American soil with a foreign-born attack. That was unimaginable. For people in Iraq, that's like, you know, a combination of, you know, maybe a week of America's most intense bombing. For people in Afghanistan, it's the same. Maybe not to the same number, but like it's a month-long conquest over the course of years and years of occupation that America engaged in these countries. They're significantly more used to it.
Which would presumably mean no one was sweeping it or checking it before this Hamas leader came in, or in fact, any time in the past 2 months, which would seem to be just a really basic point of protocol.
Yeah, look, we don't know exactly what kind of explosive device this was. We don't know exactly where it was hidden, whether this was something that could have evaded the typical checks that the IRGC would conduct on this. But I think one clear failure of security here is the fact that this guest house, the reason why this bomb was planted there is because it was a guest house where Ismail Haniyeh was known to have stayed. And so this indicates that Haniyeh was a repeat guest in this same location, which is obviously a major security vulnerability that the Israelis appear to have exploited here.
I do like that. That one chatter was like operating on yesterday's talking points of like, well, do we know if it was Israel? What proof do you have? When like virtually every outlet was like, yeah, of course it's Israel. Come on, dog. Like, and we've totally moved past that. This questions the bomb story and gives a reason as to why. The Iranian intelligence is insisting on an air-to-surface missile is responsible for the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The leaks coming from Israel want to establish that a bomb was planted. Israel's want to portray the attack as an intelligence operation to keep it under the category of shadow war, but Iran seems to have decided to deal with the attack as military aggression. Oh. Wait, that also means that like Iran wants to retaliate. Iran posted their red flag of vengeance. So did Hezbollah, by the way, as in they have both vowed to take action. This happened, it was earlier, like 2 to 3 hours ago. Oh, okay. Do Americans really want another war in the sandbox, though? A lot of Americans and Westerners are having more of an isolationist stance. I mean, it doesn't matter what Americans want. Chatters, what you want is completely insignificant, especially when it comes to foreign policy. There's no better representation of this than our undying loyalty, seemingly, to the state of Israel, no matter how fucking aggressive, how violent, and how ridiculous Israel gets with its belligerent actions in the region. I suppose the counter thought to that threatening arms cutoff will stop Israel is that it would make them go even more hog wild if they have nothing to lose while they still have weapons. Yeah, but they don't have. See, the beauty of threatening to cut Israel's arms, the beauty of that entire process is that because they are so fucking belligerent and have not stopped with their endless bombing campaign, they don't exactly have a solid backlog of weapons. It's not like they're sitting on a fucking massive pile or a surplus. They are fully dependent. This entire thing also is on the verge of collapse regardless because the Israeli economy is tanking. A ton of Israeli people have fled the country. Northern Israel, all of these people that live there have had to leave northern Israel. The Israeli port has had a severe decrease of traffic and trade in general. They are literally losing everything. This is the issue. All of these like reservists are now back in rotation. They're serving in the IDF. Yeah, 30% of their workers are not working. They're on the front lines, killing babies. This was back in February. Israel's economy shrinks more than expected on Gaza war. GDP fell by 19% on an annualized basis in the fourth quarter of 2023. That's the equivalent of a fall off of 5% between October and December. That was in February. This war is absolutely propping up their economy. What? No, it's not. It's not propping up their economy at all. If they were a country like Russia or a country like the United States of America that have their own arms that they're manufacturing and using, it would be a self-feeding cycle. Haaretz reports 1 in 4 Israeli Jews would leave Israel to another country if they could. New survey finds. Nearly half of Israel's Arab citizens say they would emigrate if given the practical opportunity, according to the latest monthly survey by the Jewish... wait, what? But then it says 1 in 4 Israeli Jews. Oh, half of Israel's Arab population would say they'd leave. A quarter of Israel's Jewish population would say they'd leave. Yo, Israel's the safest place for Jews, though, bro. Without Israel, there would be no safe place, dude. I mean, I know there's Israeli Jews in this chat that are desperately trying to leave. It makes sense.
Israel is at a very high level of readiness for any scenario, both defensively and offensively. We will exact a very high price for any act of aggression against us from any arena.
The twin attacks on 2 capitals have plunged the region into more uncertainty. And whilst all parties say they don't want all-out war, that is getting ever closer.
I think there is one party here that is saying they want all-out war. That party is Israel. The idea that like one party is actually against all-out war is so silly. I mean, that's crazy. They literally hit a Iranian consulate. Then they turned around and assassinated the fucking guy that was the principal negotiator on the ceasefire deal in Tehran.